Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 69 of the BoxHard Podcast, episode 69. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how are you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, Ayaz, very good. So like every other show, we're going to dive straight into part one being the review part where we review the fights from last week. So there's a couple of bills to review, not too much. So we're going to start with a card that happened over in the Horseshoe Casino in Mississippi, USA. This one was on the Thursday night, Thursday the 2nd of February. Just one fight to mention on this bill. Old tricky veteran Louis Collazo, the southpaw obviously, former world champion. He stepped in there against upcoming, also a southpaw as well, Sammy Vasquez, who has a record of 21-1. Obviously Louis Collazo 36-7. This was a good fight. This was a, two guys that are at completely different or opposite ends of their careers. Obviously, Collazo being the old guy, he's been there before. Vasquez being the young lion. It was a good fight, but Louis Collazo was able to pull it out of the bag with a KO in round 6. Vasquez was also down in round 3 as well. So, good win there for Collazo. Just goes to show he's not done. He still can pull a win out the bag like that. So his record now 37-7, and Sammy Vasquez has to go back to the drawing board. It's not looking too great for him. His record now 21-2. That's it for the 2nd of February. That's it for last Thursday. We're now going over to Friday, the 3rd of February. One fight to mention over in Australia. It's not been, it hasn't really made no impact over here. But in Australia, this was a huge fight for the Australian fans. I believe it was also on pay-per-view out there. Anthony Mundine, 47-7. He got in there against Danny Green, 35-5. Now, Mundine was actually deducted a point in the first round. Also, Danny Green was deducted a point in the 7th round. So both of those rounds going down as 10-8 rounds. Both, wrote the other one out, so to speak. And it ended up finishing with a majority decision win for Danny Green. So a loss for Anthony Mundine. A lot of people felt that Mundine won. I'm not sure of the scorecards or anything, but yeah, a lot of people think that was a bit of a robbery. I'm not sure robbery, maybe a little bit unfortunate, the outcome there. Most people going with Mundine. It was a 10-rounder at cruiserweight, that one. And that was for the Australian Cruiserweight title as well. So, tell us if you're an Australian listener, let us know what you thought about it. We, it didn't really capture too much attention over here, to be completely honest, but we also give it an honourable mention. Over now in Puerto Rico at the Coliseo Roberto Clemente, top of the bill over there, Felix Verdejo. He moved to 23-0 with a unanimous decision win over 10 rounds against Oliver Flores. Oliver Flores, well, he came to fight, but, Verdejo was just too good. And he also gets another successful defense of his WBO Latino lightweight title. So good win for Verdejo. Also on the Friday at the Belasco Theatre, Los Angeles, California, Joshua Franco was on the bill over there. He proceeded to 9-0 with a KO after 3 rounds. His opponent Victor Pasillas obviously stopped in that 3rd round. Also on that bill, Jonathan Navarro moved to 8-0 with a win over Angel Rodriguez. Also on the bill, David Mijares got a win, and also Ryan Garcia. So good stuff for the youngsters over in LA. That's it for that card. Now we're moving over to Russia at the Dynamo Palace of Sports in Moscow. Dmitry Chudanov got a win. He moved to 20 wins now. Of course, he's got that one loss to Chris Eubank Jr., which we'll be talking about very shortly. He got a TKO in round 1. So Dmitry Chulinov, a good win for him there. His opponent didn't really come to, cause any problems or anything like that. Now we're moving over to the Olympia, Kensington, London, top of the bill. As I say, Chris Eubank Jr. was challenging for the IBO world title. I've said my piece on the IBO world title and and how authentic or genuine of a world title it is. I said all that last week, so I'm going to just leave it at that. Reynold Quinlan, the champion, with a record of 11-1 going into this fight. He's now 11-2. He was TKO'd in round 10. Chris Eubank Jr., it was a bit of a foregone conclusion, this one. No one really thought he was going to have any trouble. He didn't have any trouble. He won every single round. Chris Eubank Jr. now 24 wins and 1 loss. That loss to Billy Joe Saunders. He's the new IBO world champion. Ayaz, I know that me and you both watched this fight. I just wanted to ask your take on it, really. Obviously, a lot of us thought that Quinlan wouldn't be able to trouble Chris Eubank Jr. A lot of people thought that Chris Eubank Jr. was just going to win this easily, and to be honest, he did what we expected. What did you make of the whole thing?
I mean, Quinlan performed very good, I can tell you that. But obviously, Chris Eubank Jr. was above level of him. That's why Chris Eubank Jr. won the fight.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Eubank Jr. also landed a lot of shots. And the one thing I will give Quinlan credit for is the fact that it took 10 rounds to get rid of him, because Quinlan took, quite a licking, to be honest. And he weren't really going nowhere. Until, it did catch up with him in the end. In those later rounds, he seemed to be, getting trouble quite a bit. But, routine win there for Chris Eubank, and hopefully we see him in another big fight. Well, I say another big fight. When I say another big fight, I'm referring to the Billy Joe Saunders fight. That was the only big fight he's been in. So I really hope we see him in a big fight against someone of note in the very near future, because it's getting quite boring now. Also on this bill, Ardin Diale put his WBC International Flyweight title on the line against Andrew Selby. Andrew Selby collected this win and also collected the belt. So his record now 8-0, Andrew Selby, and he's picked up 3 belts within 8 fights, 8 wins. So Andrew Selby is absolutely flying at the moment. Very pleased for him. I sent him a nice message afterwards. He did really, really well. Also on that bill, Adam Etches against John Ryder. This one was always, viewed as a 50-50. It was for a vacant IBF International Super Middleweight title. Adam Etches seemed to look very one-dimensional. It was a tough fight. John Ryder surprisingly looked pretty powerful at super middleweight, I will say. Obviously both guys were moving up, but in my opinion, I think that John Ryder had him in all sorts of trouble, and really I think if he just maybe had a little bit more snap, he could have got him out of there. He really, really could have. He looked a lot more heavier handed, he really did. Richie Woodall, I will just say, he had it even at the start of round 12, so going into that last round, it was really, like whoever won that round for him was going to win the fight, when a lot of people had it quite wide to John Ryder. So I'm not sure what to say about that. It was a bit of a strange scorecard, but luckily the right man won after 12 rounds of boxing. But no, it was a good fight. Both guys been on the show. Both guys are true gentlemen. I wish them both the best of luck, but it's very, very hard to see a way back now for Adam Etches. Obviously he's only got the 1 loss prior to this. John Ryder had 3, so if he had 4 losses, it would have been a bit harder for John Ryder to come back. I think Adam Etches can come back, but he's got to be very careful about how he does it. But John Ryder, hopefully we see a bit of momentum moving forward with him. Kid Galahad was also on the bill. He was supposed to take on former world champion Joseph Agbeko, but for whatever reason that fight didn't happen, and Agbeko had to pull out. And there was a guy, I believe he was fighting on the undercard, Leonel Hernandez. He had a losing record. His record was 10 wins, 18 losses, 2 draws, and he got pulled in there basically with a few hours to go. So Kid Galahad still got to fight, but his fight was the one I was looking forward to most on this whole entire card. So it was crushing for me and a lot of other boxing fans. And Kid Galahad ended up, getting a win. His opponent retired at the end of round 3. I think he had an eye injury, I believe. Kid Galahad just played with him really, and he moves to 22-0. But what a shame, because I was really looking forward to that. It was going to be like the first test of his career against Agbeko. Chris Too Slick Congo also got out on the TV as well, so good stuff for him to show us his talent on live TV. That was brilliant. He moved to 3-0 with a TKO in round 1. And finally, the last fight to mention on this particular bill, Christian Hammer, the WBO European heavyweight champion, put his belt on the line against David Price. Christian Hammer obviously coming into this with a record of 20-4. David Price 21-3. Hammer was down in round 5, Ayaz, and it looked like, well, it didn't look like David Price was coming on strong, because in that round that Hammer was down, he was winning it pretty big for me anyway. Maybe not pretty big, but he was winning it for me. And then he just seemed to get caught and he went down. So it was very unlucky there. And then, David Price was just absolutely tired. He was absolutely blowing by even the 4th or 5th round. And he actually, he did pretty well to get to round 7 before he was TKO'd. The referee jumped in and waved it off. And this is devastating stuff for David Price. We know he's another true gentleman. He's one of the nicest guys in boxing, but unfortunately, being a nice guy doesn't get you too far in boxing. It doesn't. You need to have something with that. You need to have some skills. You need to be able to knock people out. He's got skills and he can knock people out, but he's definitely lacking something. Ayaz, firstly, what did you make of David Price's his fight, and also what you see next for David Price? How does he come back from this? Can he come back from this?
I mean, he performed very good at the start here, but the problem is he was really tiring out. By him coming back, I can't see him coming back.
I know it's a bit harsh, but do you suggest, do you suggest he should retire now, or just drop down a level? What do you think?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's confidence. The problem with is his confidence. That's what it is.
Yeah, I think so too. Go on.
I think it's his confidence, and because of that, he's still not ready yet.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, one thing, do you know what? I'm going to try my best here to stick up for David Price. I'm going to go out on record and say Christian Hammer is better than people give him credit for. And I'm looking at his record right now. He lost his debut, okay? He lost his debut on, with a shoulder injury. He actually retired after the first round, okay? So he only fought for one round, for 3 minutes, and then he pulled out with a shoulder injury. That was in his first professional contest back in 2008, okay? So since then, he's put together a string of wins. Then he came up against Marius Wack, who's a good fighter. He was unbeaten, 21-0 at the time. And he managed to KO Christian Hammer in round 6. After that fight, he got in there against a guy called Bidenko, and he lost a majority decision over 6 rounds. Okay, so a very, very close fight. Now, that was back in December of 2010. Okay, so since that fight, so that's been 6 years and a couple of months. Since that fight, he's only lost one, and it was to Tyson Fury. He actually pulled out of that fight at the end of the 8th round. He lost every round. He was being played with. But Tyson Fury went on to do what he did. He became world champion. So, in a way, in the last 6 years, he's just got wins, and quite a few knockouts as well. So, yeah, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So he's actually had 15 fights since his last loss. He's won 14 of them, with a lot of knockouts, and he's lost one, which was to Tyson Fury. So I actually think that Christian Hammer could end up being quite a good fighter. I really do. I really do think that. He's obviously the WBO European heavyweight champion right now. He's only 6'2", but he's also, one thing what kind of surprised me is that he's also scheduled to defend his European belt in Hamburg on the 25th of March. So, that's pretty soon after that fight just there. I'm not sure if that's definitely going to happen, but it still says, it's still penciled in to happen. So, yeah, I think Christian Hammer could be a little bit better than what we give him credit for. As for David Price, I think that really and truly he is like a guy that, he came into the professional ranks with a lot of momentum. He was a bronze medalist in the Olympics. He came through, he was knocking everyone out. Then obviously he came up against Tony Thompson. He lost 2 fights to Tony Thompson, who was really old at the time. You know, Tony Thompson really should have got knocked out in both of those fights. Obviously, Tony Thompson ended up failing a drug test or whatever happened. I'm not sure if that was on both fights or if that was on the first one or the second one. Whatever happened, he wasn't clean during those fights, or one of them, or whatever. So Tony Thompson came out and then said it was actually it was to do with some medicine he was on, and the drug that was in his system was like a dieting drug, which I can't remember the name of, but there'll be no sense in him taking that because he's a heavyweight. He hasn't got a cut weight or anything. So it was, I don't think he was using it as performance enhancing drugs. Like, he was actually using it to some kind of advantage. I don't think Tony Thompson did that. But obviously since then, since the 2 Thompson losses, he was very shaky in some of his fights despite winning them. Obviously he ended up winning 4 fights on the bounce, none of them in the UK. Then he lost to Erkan, who again, it came out that he was a drug cheat as well. And Erkan was a good fighter. He was unbeaten as well, 14-0 at the time. Since that Tepa fight, he's had 2 fights. He's won them both by knockout, both in the second round. Then he comes up against Christian Hammer. Look, David Price, as I say, when he turned over, come through with a lot of confidence. He was banging people out. He was the British champion. He defended it twice. He was a good British champion. But I think since, above being British level, going on to European, I think that's a bit too far for him. I think he is European level at best, David Price. But it's a shame because he's a lovely guy. I love his trainer, Dave Caldwell. Big fan to him on this show. But we can't really make a case for him. It is what it is, what I say or what he says or anything like that. Remember, he was supposed to have knocked out Anthony Joshua in sparring, so they say. Maybe he did, but I just think under the lights is where it matters, and he just can't seem to do it, which is horrible. But we wish him all the best with whatever he does. He's gone through a few different trainers now. It doesn't seem to be the trainers that it's not their fault. He's been with different trainers and he's lost, and there's no real excuse when you're being, when you're gassed that bad. He was absolutely gassed to high heavens by round 4. Unless you can't just bang everyone out within 3 rounds, but if it goes more than 3 rounds, he can't do it, But as I say, best of luck to David Price, man. It's gutting. But that's really it for the reviewing. That's all we've got for last week's fights. That's all we've got. That's all the talking done. So before we end part 1, there's one last thing to do, and that is to welcome our first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former British champion and current WBC International champion, Mr. Sam Eggington. Sam, welcome to the show.
Nice one, mate. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Sam. It really is. Now, I just want to go back to something that I previously heard about you. When you started boxing, there was... I've heard it. I'm not sure if it was 100% true. I just wanted to get it from you. I heard that you just walked into a gym and sort of said, listen, I want to box, even if it means being a journeyman. What exactly happened there?
Yeah, that was the truth. I boxed as an amateur, not very serious. I had about 30 fights. I had my son very young, and I quit boxing, and I just got a job, and I got made redundant, and I just went into the gym. Luckily enough, I walked into John Pegg's gym, and I said, look, I've heard about these people go on the road, the box every week, they get paid, win, lose or draw. I want to do that. Get me on the road. And it's just gone from there, honestly.
Never look back. Yeah, brilliant stuff, man. That's amazing. You get a lot of respect for that, for sure. Now, Sam, you're fighting on the Haye versus Bellew undercard on March the 4th. We're going to get onto that in a moment. Firstly, I want to go back to your last fight. You fought Frankie Gavin on the 22nd of October, just last year. And I'm going to put my hands up here. I thought Frankie was going to win that fight, if I'm being honest. I truly do. I think a lot of people thought the same.
He wouldn't have been the only one, mate. He wouldn't have been the only one.
Yeah. And you were amazing. You know, since that fight, we gave you massive credit the week after when we did the show. We got Frankie Gavin on the show as well. He spoke about that loss. He gave you a lot of credit as well. You know, you've got a come forward style. You can be like a wrecking ball at times, and your boxing skills are underrated as well, in my opinion. It was a great win. You were unreal that night. Would you say that was the best win of your career so far, Sam?
It's the best win in the sense of the name of Frankie Gavin. You know, he's an ex-world amateur champion, an ex-British champion who's, you know, won it outright, Commonwealth, fought for the European, fought for a world title. So I suppose in that way, but in general, it was just the most satisfying. I think, you know, I've never had a local rivalry or, you know, anything like that, and that was the first one. So to win it, you know, it felt good, yeah.
And as we mentioned before, you're taking on Paulie Malignaggi on the Haye versus Bellew undercard. Now, Paulie Malignaggi is obviously a former world champion. He's mixed it at the top level. He'd be the first to admit that his best days are probably behind him now. This is a brilliant fight because I love fights where both guys are at the complete opposite ends of their careers. You know, we've got a tricky veteran in Malignaggi. We've got a young lion coming up in yourself. A similar fight, what we saw earlier this week, actually. I don't know if you caught it at all. Sammy Vasquez took on Louis Collazo, and in that case, Louis Collazo...
Yeah, I did, of course. Yeah.
He pulled it out the bag, the tricky veteran. Hopefully that doesn't happen in your case. But yeah, he's mixed it with some good guys, you know, Ricky Hatton and all that. I'm just as young as you. We're about a year apart or something like that. So we've seen, well, I grew up anyway watching Paulie Malignaggi. I've seen a lot of him. What do you think of him as a boxer, Sam?
He speaks for himself. His quality, you know, you have to look for his record to see that he's a quality operator. Like you say, I think, you know, his best years are behind him, but you can't go into a fight thinking like that, especially with someone who's operated at the top for so long, because they could just pull someone out of the bag that you probably wouldn't expect. But you know, I expect him to come and do his thing. You know, he likes to, you know, be a bit tricky. You know, lean back, pop the jab out. But you know, it's all about working it out, and I think we've worked it out well. And if not, you know, I'll work it out, you know, as the fight goes on. But you know, I'm confident that I'll get in and do a job on the 4th of March, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And would you say, Sam, that he's fought anybody like you before?
Honestly, I couldn't say I haven't been through his record as much, but I don't think he's fought anyone like me in the last, you know, let's say 5 years. I know he ain't boxed regular at all anyway, but I think it'll be a shock to the system. I mean, I'm 23. I'm fit as a fiddle, and you know, I'll come forward, you know, relentlessly, constantly. How he'll take to that, being, you know, like you say, probably the best days are behind him, and he's 36 and stuff like that. You know, we'll be up to him. But you know, I'll just say, as long as I've trained to my best ability and done everything I can in the gym, it shouldn't matter what Paulie Malignaggi turns up. You know, I should be confident in myself, and I am confident that, you know, I'll do the job no matter what Paulie turns up. I'll have enough to beat him.
Yeah, and that's the right way to think. Obviously, you know this anyway, but in my personal opinion, I think that Paulie's never been too great against pressure fighters. I don't think he's brilliant at keeping people off him, possibly because he doesn't have, you know, the hard shots. He doesn't hit very hard. I think at this point in his career, and with your momentum as well, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. I held my hands up a moment ago when I said I doubted you before when you fought Frankie Gavin. I've learnt my lesson not to doubt you again, but I honestly think you're going to win this fight. I truly do, Sam, because the way you fight, you just cannot allow him to dictate the pace, because one thing he is good at, obviously, is boxing. He's got quick hands to match, but I think this is the right timing for you. I truly do.
I think, you know, you know, I don't want to, you know, play the fight down, but I think it's perfect. I think it's too much of perfect timing on my account, if you know what I mean. I think, you know, Paulie Malignaggi, like you say, he's maybe a bit past his best, and you know, the age and the weight. You know, Paulie Malignaggi will be a handful at anyone at light welterweight, but at welterweight, you know, the day after the weigh-in, he's going to have serious problems keeping me off. Yeah. You know, do you know what I mean? I'm coming to the weigh-in, and he's going to look at me, and I'm going to look like like a panda, you know, two dark black eyes, and you know, I'm not going to look great. But you know, the day after, people see that, you know, it's going to be a really hard night for Paulie Malignaggi, and I think like you say, I just think the timing's perfect on my behalf. That's all. I think it's too right for it to go wrong. Although I'm training like anything can happen, but like you say, yeah, I'm confident and I'm putting it all in, and I think it is perfect timing on my behalf. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. I have to agree. And lastly, I want to just ask you a couple of questions about some other fighters and fights that are coming up. Being under the same promotional banner as Kell Brook, obviously, the obvious fight would be you and him.
Yeah.
It appears like you're going down the WBC route, and plus he's got his hands full with the Errol Spence thing. Do you know enough about Errol Spence to give us your prediction on that fight if it were to happen?
I've watched him a few times. People, because to me, I've only watched his last 3 or 4. I don't know how many fights he's had, but I've only watched his last 3 or 4. And he's looked strong, and he's done serious jobs on kids that, are not normally put out. Like, who's the kid that fought Pacquiao? That tall white kid used to be a kickboxer, and he put him out, and I thought that was a shock. I didn't expect that.
Yes.
I couldn't tell you his name, man.
Yeah, Algeria.
You know what I'm on about, don't you?
Algeria. Yeah.
Algeria. I didn't see him putting Algeria out, and he did. And then he done a serious job on Bundu. And I know Bundu. People say Bundu's old, but he went the full distance with Thurman the fight before.
Yeah.
So he has been putting some people out that I thought was unexpected, and he's done really well doing it. But like I say, I think mainly with Kell Brook, I think it's a weight. I think going up to middleweight proves, and he's done well at middleweight against an absolute tank in Golovkin. I think it proves that welterweight's probably too much for him. Too low to get to. But I think if anything, and I think he'll have that. I think that'll be the main thing. But I don't see him outclassing him or even out punching him or anything, because Kell Brook, he does everything superb. So I think mainly for me, I think the weight will kill Kell Brook, and I think that's what'll be the
telling factor,
the bad bit for him. I think that'll be the main factor in it.
Yeah. No, a good fight anyway. And I've got to ask you about this as well. 2 people that you've previously fought are both fighting each other in May. Bradley Skeete against Shane Singleton. Do you reckon Bradley Skeete will have any trouble against Singleton at all?
I don't think he'll have trouble. I mean, Shane does what he does well, but I don't think Skeete will have much trouble. I mean, Shane's got heart, coming out of his. He's got a lot of heart. He will carry on coming. But honestly, I don't think Bradley Skeete has a hard night there. I think as long as Bradley Skeete takes him serious and does what he normally does, I think he wins by a clear distance. If I'm honest.
Yeah,
I'm not just saying that because I just think that's the way it'll go.
Yeah.
But it'll be a good fight while it lasts. Shane does give it all he's got, so we'll see.
And the last question I want to ask you about other fights now. I've got to ask you this now because I've listened to what you say. You seem to know about these other fighters. Keith Thurman against Danny Garcia. This one is one I've been looking forward to for ages. Who wins?
You know what? It's hard, but I carry on going. I love Danny Garcia. I love the way he boxes. I love what he does, but I just can't go. I just think Keith Thurman's too busy, and at welterweight, I think he's too big for him. I think this is a bad fight for Danny Garcia. I think he's big and he does a lot more. I think his work rate and he hits. I know Danny Garcia hits, but he ain't look like he's that much of a killer puncher at welterweight as he was at light welter.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna go with Thurman.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a points decision, but I think Thurman wins.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, man, for sure. And Sam, I know you're very confident about your fight coming up. You don't have to give it to me if you don't want, but I will ask you if you've got any kind of prediction. Again, I don't want to push you for one if you haven't got one, but how do you see yourself winning that fight against Paulie?
I'm not going to go for any rounds, but I can see the fight going a lot like the Gavin fight. But like I say, with people like Malignaggi who's fought at the top level for a long time, you never know what they're going to pull out the bag. But I can see the fight going a lot like the Gavin fight. It'll be rounds here and there. But I think in the end, I'll have too much for him. I just think I'll be too much. And I think I'll stop him later on. I'm not going to pick around because, I think that's disrespectful. But I just think, I'll have too much for him at this point in both of our careers. So I think a late stoppage.
Okie dokie, late stoppage. And finally, Sam, just before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity to thank anyone or give anyone a shout out at all while you're on this platform.
I've got to shout out all the sponsors. I have massive help with sponsorship, Daffabet, Westbound Shipping Services, Home Serve repairs. All the food. I have prep food made for me weekly, so I can't thank them enough making welterweight. The Meat Man sends me a nice hamper every month. So yeah, I'm very thankful for all of them.
Excellent stuff. Okay, listen, Sam, it's been a pleasure having you on this week's podcast. I wish you all the best for March the 4th. I truly do. We're behind you 100%, and we'll catch up sometime after the fight, my friend.
Thanks for that, mate.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part is the preview part, but just before we get into the preview part, we're going to talk about this week's news. Ayaz, please bring us in with this week's news.
Josh Kelly has turned professional with Matchroom Boxing and will make his debut on the undercard of Ricky Burns' unification clash with Julius Indongo in Glasgow.
Yes, Josh Kelly, obviously, we've seen him, representing Team GB, representing Great Britain at the Olympics in Rio just last year. He's a good fighter, he really is. All these Olympians are good fighters. A lot of them turning pro just recently, a lot of them signing with Matchroom, so just another guy really to look out for, because Josh Kelly can seriously fight, and I'm excited for his future. That's really the open and shut of it, to be honest.
Jarrell Miller is waiting news on a discussed heavyweight fight with Luis Ortiz and hopes to battle his fellow title contender in New York.
Yeah, we want to see Big Baby Miller in a good fight. We had him on the show. He was talking all about most of our fighters over here in the UK. He also has Luis Ortiz on his radar. Wanting it in the United States, I don't know if that would happen because Ortiz being signed with Matchroom. And saying that, since his last fight, beating Dave Allen, I haven't heard anything mentioned about Ortiz. I haven't heard anything. I don't know when he's next fighting. I don't know, his championship status, anything. So, I can't see that fight happening. And if it is to happen, I doubt it would be in the United States. But then the proposition of having a card in the United States, that might be something that Eddie Hearn, because he likes challenges and stuff, so maybe he might do that. Maybe that could end up happening. But in my heart of hearts, I can't see it, because I think I know that Jarrell Miller wants to get paid for these big fights, and I don't know, fighting someone who can't actually speak the language as well, like Luis Ortiz, it would have to be built up to earn the money that I think both guys would want for that fight. So I don't think that fight's going to happen. I think we're going to probably see Ortiz fighting someone at the top of the WBA. We need to see that belt sorted out. Who's going to be the WBA world champion? That all needs to be sorted out very soon. But I think he'll have his eye on that rather than taking a backward step, so to speak. Not in terms of talent, if Jarrell Miller's listening, but in terms of status and where he's at and positioning, I don't think he's going to take a back step, to be honest. But it'd be interesting anyway, because we do need to see Big Baby in a big fight, and we also need to see Luis Ortiz in a big fight for sure. Is there any more news for us, Ayaz?
No, that's it, Joey.
Okay, cool stuff. Thank you very much, Ayaz. So now we're going to get straight into the preview part. As I said, one fight happening over, a couple of fights actually happening over in the Huntington Center in Toledo, Ohio, USA. Top of the bill, Rashay Warren puts his WBA Super World Bantamweight title on the line against Zanat Zakhayanov. Rashay Warren being 14-1, Zakhayanov 26-1. This should be a good fight, by the way. Rashay Warren's a good fighter, and so is Zanat Zakhayanov, so this is what makes this fight pretty intriguing. The IBO World Bantamweight title is also on the line, but I'm not gonna, that doesn't really need to be mentioned. It's that kind of show. We're offending people this week, we really are. Also on this bill, because it's a double world title fight card, Robert Easter Jr. defends his IBF World Lightweight title against Luis Cruz. Luis Cruz with a record of 22-4 with one draw. Robert Easter Jr. 18-0. Also on this bill, Terrell Gausha looks to move to 20-0. He's taking on Luis Hernandez, who has a record of 15-3. So all the best to Terrell Gausha. Also on this bill, Jamel Herring, good friend of the show. He's in his 17th professional contest. His record 15-1 at the moment. He's in an 8-rounder at lightweight against Art Hovhannissian. I think I know how to pronounce his name because Jamel Herring kind of taught me on the show when we had him on a couple of weeks back. But we definitely wish Jamel Herring all the best of luck in this fight for sure. That's it for Huntington Center in Ohio. We're now going to go over to one fight happening in Mexico. I'm going to try and pronounce the venue. This one is the Gimnasio Municipal Gustavo Diaz Ordaz. I think I've done well there. Antonio DeMarco, 31-6 with 1 draw. He's fighting Luis Solis, who has a record of 20-7 with 4 draws. This is a 10-rounder at super lightweight. So that should be a good fight. Antonio DeMarco, you know, he's been in some good fights. I suppose he's going to probably be the favourite in this one. And finally, the final card to mention, this one happening at the Westcroft Leisure Centre in Carshalton, Surrey. Not too far from me, that one. Top of the bill, Lenny Dawes, 30 wins and 4 losses with 2 draws, taking on Anthony Yigit, who has a record of 18-0, undefeated with just 1 draw. This one's for the vacant EBU European Super Lightweight title, the 140 European title. Lenny Dawes gets another crack at this belt. I know that he's very, very thankful to Mick Hennessy. Mick Hennessy certainly delivered for Lenny Dawes. You know, they've been very loyal to each other. It's worked very well. Lenny Dawes, you know, he's come up short for the European strap. It's really a belt that I get a feeling that he won't retire without winning. So we really want him to do well here. We really are behind him. I remember being at his last fight when he challenged for it and got disqualified. But I wish him all the best of luck. I seriously do. Lenny Dawes a real nice guy, another nice guy. We've got so many nice guys in British boxing. It really is a family. It really is. And also on the undercard, Peter McDonough. He gets out in his 57th contest. He's got 27 wins, 28 losses and 1 draw. So hopefully he gets a win. Also on the bill, Tony Banj. He's the guy that's managed by Prince Nassim Hamed. He's in his 4th professional contest. His opponent yet to be announced. Also, Kurt Garvey gets out again. He's in his 9th contest. His record 7-1 at the moment. But that's really it for the preview, and there's not been too much to preview this week. There's not too many fights on this weekend, but we've read out all the biggest fights for you, and of course we've also wished the best of luck to the guys that we have love for. We've got a lot of love on this show. It's a family show. We spread the love, not just to our boxers, but also to our listeners. It really is a big family here on the BoxHard Podcast. But that's really it for the preview, and as I said, that's it for the news. Part 2 is about to end, but before it ends, there's one last thing to do, and we do the same thing every single week. You're used to this now. It's to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man that next month is having his 52nd professional fight. He's also on the undercard of Haye versus Bellew. It's of course Mr. Derry Matthews. Derry, welcome to the show.
Evening, lads.
Hey, thank you very much, my friend, for coming on. Now, firstly, Derry, as I mentioned just there, you're in a big fight next month against the undefeated Ohara Davies. It's his birthday today. You know, you're an honest man. You're down to earth. It goes without saying that you had a bit of a bad year last year.
Yeah, I had obviously a bad year, but I had a bad year fighting world-class fighters Terry Flanagan and Luke Campbell. But, you know, push that to one side. I've had upsets and, you know, right through my career, basically. I've always boxed the best, and so now it's time to, you know, move up a weight and let's see what this young puck's got. Let's see if he's good as we say he is, and let's give him a test. Let's get in there and let some shots go on him.
Yeah, I was going to say that. In fairness, you fought 2 top quality fighters. You know, many fighters couldn't have a bad year and then come back straight into a fight like you're having next month and put in a good performance. But you're unique in this area, to be honest, because you've proved time and time again that you can pull a win out of the bag when needed, and you've done it many, many times throughout your career. As I say, you're taking on Ohara Davies. As I mentioned, firstly, Derry, what are your thoughts on him as a person? We've obviously seen a lot of back and forth on Twitter. What are your thoughts on him?
As a person, I just don't think, you know, I don't think he knows what he's doing himself. I think he's a bit deluded in the head, and No, I don't think he's got respect for anyone. Not just me. I don't think he's got any respect for any boxer out there. I always see him slating Josh Taylor, Robbie Davies. You know, he's having a go at them all. And, you know, with respect, you know, I've been in this game a long time. I've been a professional for 15 years, and I've never come across anyone like him in my life. As in, like, I think people in his own team don't even like him. That's how bad of a person he is. I've had people who he trains with, who are no close, who are no well, who don't like him. People in his own stable, you know, there's people out there who grew up with him as well, who don't like him, who are texting me every day and make sure you smash him, I hate the Maldi, whatever he is. And, you know, so now it's down to me just to push that to one side, and I'm just focused on doing what I've got to do. And if I turn up, and I believe I'm going to turn up the best I'm going to be, I'll win the fight, and I'll win it easy.
And Derry, what are your thoughts on him as a boxer? We know that he's got a good jab when he uses it. He's got a long reach. He can bang a bit. Obviously, you're moving up to 140 for this fight. He's been at 140 for a little bit now. Is that something you're pleased to be doing, moving up to 140? And also, as I say, what do you think of him as a fighter? He seems to be pretty promising at the minute, in all, you know, all due respect.
Yeah, he is. Listen, he's beaten who's put in front of him, but I don't think he's boxed anyone with the experience and the power I've got. Me moving up to 140 pounds is a bonus for me. Obviously, you know, I was a big 135 fighter, and as I've got older in time, and you know, it hurt me a bit to make the weight, and now I'm going to be strong as an ox at 140. Basically, fight week I'll be carb loading all fight week. I'll be ready, and I'm ready to go and do what I've got to do. But boxing wise, I think he's got a good jab. He's in a good stable. He's got a good trainer, Tony Sims. But I know that, you know, I've prepared the best I can prepare. I sparred 3 world champions for this fight, and you know, I haven't took him lightly. I took him serious, and you know, I know what's at stake. You know, I beat him, and you know, I'm knocking on the door for big honours.
And Derry, you've been around the block. You know, he hasn't, so to speak. The experience is in your favour, undoubtedly. Do you feel that you need to be 100% fully fit and focused to win this fight, and any lower than that, you know, you don't have such of a good chance? Do you feel you need to be 100% for this one?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and that's why I've locked myself away. I've moved. I've left my wife who's heavily pregnant, and you know, I've come away to prepare the best I can prepare. I've been out in LA. I'm back in Scotland now at the moment, and you know, I've locked myself away. I've basically packed my bag and just gone for 6 weeks just to be the best I can mentally and physically, and I don't make excuses. So I've got no excuses if I did ever get beat, but I know that I'm going to win the fight. I know that I'm going to be prepared the best I've possibly prepared. I've done everything right in camp, and I've had great sparring. I've got another 2 weeks of sparring left, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the sacrifice. And obviously, you know, it's hard being away from my wife and my children, but you know, come fight night, and then on March the 5th when I wake up with a new belt, it's going to be well worth it. And you know, and I know Ohara Davies is a big puncher, they're all saying, but what's he like at getting it? He's never been it, and I'm believe me, I want to hit him and I want to test him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to ask you about a couple of other fights that are coming up. I want to ask you about the main event of the card that you're on, Haye against Bellew. I know Bellew, obviously, being from your neck of the woods. How do you see that one playing out, Derry? A lot of people favouring Haye, though.
Yeah, a lot of people are favouring Haye, but listen, I'm Tony's friend, and people are going to say that it's going to be a biased one, but I've got a feeling Tony's just going to put it right on him. I think Haye's bottle's going to go. He's been out the game a long time, but when I say he's been out the ring, he's been in the ring, but he hasn't been in with people like Tony Bellew. He's been in with basically Thurman and window cleaners. That's all he's been fighting. This time round, Tony Bellew's going to bring it to him, and if Tony jumps on him, I can see Tony winning within 4 rounds. I can see David Haye, you know, making an excuse, a shoulder injury or something, or even being chinned. But I know Bellew's going to win the fight.
Okay, and another fight I want to ask you about, we just got off the phone to him a little while ago, Sam Eggington against Paulie Malignaggi, obviously at 147, the weight class above 140, which you're fighting at. How do you see that one playing out? That's really interesting.
Listen, it's a great fight. Sam, I think Sam's most probably one of the most improved fighters in Britain. He's got one of them styles, maybe you look at him, you think, you know what, I could beat him. Anyone could beat him. But for some reason, he gets in there and he breaks your heart and he breaks people down. and I really, really rate him. Not many people do what he could do to Frankie Gavin, because Frankie's a world-class amateur, world champion, and Sam got in there. You know, he's a young kid as well. He's fresh and he's brave. He's got a good trainer, John Pegg. I remember meeting John Pegg about 3 years ago, 3 or 2 years ago. And Sam had only had a handful of fights, and John said, Derry, watch this kid. He's gonna, if he gets given the chance, he's gonna be a star, and he's done it. And I honestly think he breaks Paulie Malignaggi's heart as well. I really, really think he wins the fight. I just think, obviously, Malignaggi's got all the skill in the world and everything, but this is a massive fight. This is like the platform Sam onto the next big stage. You know, we can sort of become a superstar. Everyone knows who Paulie Malignaggi is all over the world, and to beat him, you know, on a massive undercard is a brilliant. It's brilliant for him.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish him the best of luck. Couple last questions now, Derry.
Yeah.
I just want to basically ask you, if you've got one, that is, I don't want to push you for one if you don't,
yeah.
But do you have any kind of prediction of the outcome of your fight against Ohara?
No, I'm just going to win, and I just don't want to beat him convincingly, and I've got a little feeling he might quit on the stool. I think I'm going to break his heart. I want to do things what no one's done to him, and let's see if he's as good as he says he is. You know, 1 minute he's saying he's got no respect for me, 1 minute saying he has got respect for me. He needs to make his mind up. He's got 3 weeks left. He's not going to get any much fitter in 3 weeks. So I know I'm fit as a fiddle. I've done the best camp I've ever had. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling strong. And fine at 140. I know I'm going to take it to him and I'm going to set the pace, and he's in trouble.
Okay, Derry. And finally, just before we let you go, I just wanted to give you a chance to give your, to give your gym a plug as well to any of our listeners. You've got your own boxing gym now. Tell us about it and how people can get down there and get involved.
Then I've got my own gym in Liverpool City Centre, in the Liverpool Cree area. It's called Derry's Gym. Basically, we have a class on every day at 10 a.m. We have children's boxing at 4:30 every night. Then adult circuit classes at 5:30. Adult boxing at 6:30. We do disability boxing as well, which is on Thursday at 2:00, where we're getting 50 disabled lads and girls in, all having a good workout and enjoying it. So, it's good. We're a community-based gym. We're all self-funded, and so just get yourself down. Your first week in a gym is always free to the people who want to come and start. So just get yourself in and get involved and come and meet your friends.
Excellent stuff, man. Brilliant stuff. Okay, listen, Derry, I want to thank you for giving us a bit of your time this week. We wish you the best of luck for March the 4th, and we'll no doubt speak again very soon, my man.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time to conclude this week's show. This is the end of the 69th edition of the BoxHard Podcast. We've brought you another 2 guests on this week's show that are both part of the Haye versus Bellew undercard next month. A special thank you to Sam Eggington and Derry Matthews. The biggest thank you of all goes out to our loyal listeners, the same as every week. Remember, if you get a chance, please leave us a review on iTunes. It really means a lot. It truly does. Remember also, you can get involved in the conversation on Twitter at BoxHard Podcast. We'll be back next week with another big show as always. Until then, take care.